boys and girls. Today we're on 8.1, but we're actually going to be looking at 8.1 and 8.3. So I'm calling this video Chapter 8 Lesson Part 1 because this is a very short chapter. So let's go ahead and get started with this one. We're going to start with the objective of 8.1 and then we'll move on to 8.3. So go to 8.1, get your chapter 8 book. It's page 357 is the first lesson in your book. And we're going to write the objective of this particular lesson, which we're going to go through right now. So the objective of lesson 1 is that we will divide a whole number by a fraction and divide a fraction by a whole number. So we're going to be dividing fractions, and we're going to be doing this two ways. We're going to be doing it with a number line, and then we're going to have an example where we're doing it with fraction strips. Okay, so here we are with the first part. Here are our materials. We're going to be using Toy Story fraction strips, but for the first one, we're actually just using the number line. Mia walks a 2-mile fitness trail. She stops to exercise every 1/5 mile. How many times does Mia stop to exercise? So here she is, she's walking the 2 miles, and she's stopping at every 1/5 of a mile. So we want to know how many times she stops. So here's our number line, which represents 2 miles, right? We have 0, 1, 2. And so we're going to divide the number line into fifths, okay? Because she stops every 5th mile. So that means that we're dividing into fifths. So this will mean that this is 0. The 1 would be 5/5 because that's the same as 1. Let me use this one instead. Okay, so to divide this, we just go 1/5. Make this smaller. And then we go, then it's 2/5, and we have 3/5, and we have 4/5, and this is our 5/5. Okay, and then as we continue, now this becomes 6/5, or you can say 1 1/5. So that is, or 1, okay, if we write it as a mixed number, or 1 1/5. Okay, and then we go 7/5. And then we go 8/5. And then we go 9/5. And then the 2 is the same as 10/5 or 2. So I'm going to write the mixed number here on top so you can see how it relates. Remember that I showed you how to write these as mixed numbers. You'd say how many times does the 5 fit into the 6? If it's 1 time, so that's 1 whole number. And then the fraction is whatever is left over. So if it went in 1 time, I subtract 5. So that leaves 1 left over. So that means that it's 1 1/5. And so that's how we go 2, 1, 1, and then we have, let's see, right here. And then we have 1 and 2/5 for 7/5. So we have here 1 and 2/5. And then for 8/5, it would be, again, 1, and then the fraction. To find the fraction, you subtract 5 from 8, so that's 3. And so our fraction here is 1 3/5. So I'm just rewriting this as a mixed number, okay? And the last one would be 1, and if you subtract 5 from 9, that's 4. So that's 1 4/5. Oops. So there we have it, both as a fraction greater than 1 and as a mixed number. Okay, so now we're going to count how many times did she stop. So basically she stopped every fifth. So here we have, she went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, oops, 7, 8, 9, and then she got to the second mile, 10. So basically what I'm doing is counting how many times she stops. And that's how it looks like if you divide 2 divided by a fifth, okay, that would be, this is a model basically of 2 divided by, 2 divided by, how do we write divided by? 2 divided by 1/5. Okay, so there are 10 1/5 in 2 wholes. We're gonna start writing this bigger. You can use the relationship between multiplication and division to explain and check your solution. So I can explain with multiplication, and we check our quotient, or we check our division problem by multiplying. Remember that they are inverse. So we can check division with multiplication, just like we can check multiplication with division. So we said that 2 divided by 1/5 was 10. Because, so now we're going to do the inverse. We're going to multiply the quotient by the fraction of the factor. So 10 times 1/5, is that equal to 2? So we can verify that because 10 times 1, remember that when you multiply a fraction, the whole number goes over 1, and then you multiply numerator to the numerator, denominator times the denominator. But if I cross simplify, I see that I have 5 and 10 that I can divide by 5. So 5 divided by 5 is 1. 10 divided by 5 is 2. So 2 times 1 is 2. So that just verifies that that is correct. So Mia stops to exercise 10 times, and we want to understand that I can check with multiplication. So now let's go ahead and divide with fraction strips, and let's read our scenario. Roger has 2 yards of string. He cuts the string pieces into pieces that are 1/3 of a yard long. And the question is, how many pieces of string does Roger have? So he has 2 yards of strings. He cuts the strings into 1/3 pieces. That means that we're dividing 2 divided by 1/3. And so we want to know what that is equal to. So we're going to model this using the fraction strips. Okay, so here is our fraction strips. And I'm going to model 2. Luckily, with Toy Theater, I can do this one because it's only 2. But I probably would have to use another number pieces or another 2 if I go bigger than 2. So here we have 2. We're going to model 2 using 2 whole fraction strips. Now we're going to place enough 1/3 strips to fit exactly on the 2 holes. So when we divide fractions, I'm dividing by 1/3, so I get my 1/3 fraction strips, and I just place enough 1/3 strips under the the dividend to see how many fit, and that's how many 1/3 fraction strips are go under the 2. That would be my quotient. So that answer to my division problem. So 2, because that's 1, 2, divided by thirds equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that means that it equals 6. So there are 6 1/3 pieces in 2 holes. Okay, again, how did I do that? Okay, with Toy Theater, I modeled 2 because I'm dividing 2 by 1/3, and so I just placed thirds under my model of 2, and I counted how many fit under the 2. So we're going to go ahead and do another example. But before we go, let's just finish here this page. It says 2 divided by a third is equal to, we said it's 6. Because, and then what we're going to do is the inverse operation. We're going to check with multiplying. And we're going to multiply the quotient by the fraction. 6 times 1/3 equals to 2. So if we check that, we write 6 as a fraction, 6 over 1. And we can cross simplify so that we divide both the 6 and the 3 by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. And then 2 times 1 equals 2. So that means that was correct. So Roger has 6 pieces of string. So let's go ahead and try one problem here. I'm going to do number 1 and number 2. Well, it's too confusing. It looks kind of messy. Let's do number 4 instead. Plus, it has a smaller so we'll do number 3 and number 4 actually, because number 3 is an example of dividing a fraction. So you need to make sure that you take a note of that. How we cannot switch the numbers. Okay, we cannot switch the dividend or divisor. So remember that the first digit in your division is a divisor, the dividend, and it's divided by the divisor. So in this case, we have 1/4 divided by 2. So I will model first 1/4. So when we go to our fraction strips, okay, which I'm going to go ahead and clear. Oops. Okay, so I'm gonna be dividing 1/4. Now I'm gonna put my 1 just to see how it relates. Like if it goes over 1, is this a fraction greater than 1? That's it. But I'm actually dividing the 1/4, and I'm dividing it by 2. So basically what I'm doing is I need to find a fraction strip that fits 2 times under the 4. So I can go, I can try this one, but this one, I need more than that, right? I need more than 2 because I'm dividing the 4th by 2. So I need to find a fraction strip that fits evenly 2 times. So let's try the 8th. And it looks like this is it. So that means that, and if you look at the model here, 1/4 divided by 2 is 1/8. And why is that? Well, let's relate it to the multiplication. So we put the quotient, which is 1/8 times 2. Is that equal to a 4th? Well, remember that when you multiply fractions, the whole number goes over 1, and then you multiply the numerator times the numerator, denominator times the denominator. But we want to simplify first. See, here I have 8 and 2. These are even numbers. That means that I can divide both by 2. So 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. So now I cross multiply. Now I multiply. My numerator times the numerator is 1. 4 times 1 is 4. So that match. So that means that it's correct. Okay. Let's do the next one. We have 1 divided by 1/3. So remember, the first digit is my dividend. And I'm going to model my dividend. So I have 1, so I do 1. Because I'm dividing a whole number, dividing a whole number by thirds is easy because all I do is I already know which one is going to, I'm going to use to divide it. So 1 divided by a third, then I will just put as many thirds that fit under the 1. And it looks like I can fit 3. So that means that 1 divided by 1/3 is equal to 3. Okay, so go ahead and practice this. And we'll go from there. So here we just 8.3. So we already learned how to divide fractions with the fraction strips, with the number line. on the past lesson. And so this lesson is kind of quick. That's the reason why I'm actually connecting it here. And so the objective is a little long, but the objective of this lesson is that we will interpret a fraction as division and solve whole number division problems. And I did not write this right. Or this division problems that result in a fraction or mixed number. So this might be something that you already connect, you already figured it out, but we want to make sure that you understand that. So a fraction can be written as a division problem. That's the main idea that we're connecting today. You can write a fraction as division, and I've shown you that before too, right? When you have a fraction greater than one, and you want to write it as a mixed number. So here, 3/4 is the same as 3 divided by 4. The numerator is a dividend, and the denominator is a divisor. 12/2 is the same as 12 divided by 2. So let's look at this problem. There are 3 students in a craft class and 2 sheets of construction papers for them to share equally. What part of the construction paper will each student get? So that means that I have here these 3 students. Okay, that's 1 student, 2. I don't know why they're different. So here's 1, 2, 3 students. Okay, I know my drawing is awful. Okay, and they have only 2 sheets of paper. And so what we are doing is dividing the 2 pieces of paper, okay, by 3 students, right? Because that's all we have. We only have 2 pieces of construction paper. We want to know how much will they get. We're going to have to split it, rip it apart. So let's do this diagram. Draw lines to divide each piece of paper into 3 equal parts, because each student, we have 2 pieces of paper and we have 3 students. So we have more, we need to split it into 3 so that each student can get equal parts. So I'm going to divide this sheet of paper into thirds, and then the second page, construction paper, I will divide it into thirds so that each student, okay, so I divide it into thirds. And so that means that every student will get one of these pieces, right? So basically, okay, how much paper will each student get? So each student's share of the one sheet of construction paper would be, it will be 1/3 from the first paper and another third from the second paper. So that would be equal to, in total, 2/3. Dice Ms. Maldonado, how did you get that? Well, because here it's 1/3, right? If a student gets a third from here, and then I'm going to add the other third from the second sheet of paper. So each one gets 2/3. But now we're going to see this, doing it mathematically. Before we do that, let's look at number steps 2. Count the number of thirds each student will get. Since there are 2 sheets of construction paper, each student will get 2 of the, and we already did that, right? They both get a piece of, they get 2 of the 1/3 pieces, right? Or 2 times a third. So basically, we can relate that as multiplication, 2 times 1/3, because that's what I did here. If I added 1/3 plus 1/3, it's the same thing as saying 2 times 1/3. But not, and then we can complete the number sentence, right? So 2 divided by 3 is the same as 2 over 3. So this can show you how we can write a division as a fraction. So since the quotient, remember, is 2, that's a review of what I said earlier. I'm sorry. So now we're going to check our answer, I should say. So my quotient was 2/3. So 2/3, okay, times the divisor, which is 3, Okay, so when I multiply this, it should give me the dividend, and that will prove that it's correct. So remember that when I have a whole number, I write it over 1. And then I will multiply the numerator times the numerator, denominator times the denominator. However, I see that I have a 3, so that means that I can simplify, cross simplify. So I divide both 3's by 3, and that will give me 1. So now if I multiply 2 times 1, that is equal to 2. Okay, so 2 over 1 times 1 over 1. So that equals 2. That's the dividend, and it looks correct. So each student will get 2/3 of a sheet of construction paper. Now let's go ahead and try some problems. 6 friends share 4 small pizzas equally. So here's our 4 pizzas. Um, and we have 6 friends. So that means that we're going to divide each pizza by 6, right? So here I divided by 6. Okay. I know. I am not a good drawer virtually like that because it's hard to control the mouse, but you could do it nicely. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces in each one. Now, how would I write this? Well, see, I'm dividing 4 by 6. So if you count, um, if each friend uh, gets 1 piece from each pizza because I divided by 6, then what would be the quotient? It will be 4 over 6, wouldn't it? Because they would get 4 pieces of a 6. So in this case, uh, I can rewrite this as 4 over 6. But this is not just it, right? It doesn't end here because I can simplify because I can divide both the numerator and the denominator by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. So each friend's share is 2/3 of a pizza. Okay, so let's go ahead and do number 2. And this will be, we'll do 2 and 3, and then yeah, we'll do number 2 and number 3. So we have 4 brothers share 5 packs of stickers equally. So we draw our stickers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it's 4 friends. So that means that I'm going to split each pack by 4 equally so that I can figure out how much each brother will get. So I'm splitting the 5 packs by 4. So basically I'm dividing 5 divided by 4, right? Um, and so each brother will get, I can definitely give each brother 1 pack, right? And then all I have to do is give each brother a 4th from here. So I'm going to mark it up. That would be like 1/4, right? And then we will be giving it out equally. If you're doing this mathematically, 5 divided by 4 is the same thing as writing 5 divided by 4 or 5 over 4. So now we're writing it as a fraction, and this fraction is greater than 1. So each brother's share is 5/4. However, before I continue, remember, we want to write it as a mixed number. We don't want to, because I know it's a mixed number because it's a fraction greater than 1, and I know that because the denominator is smaller than the numerator. So how do I do this? Remember, I had shown you many times that the one way to do it is to actually divide. So 5 divided by 4. How many times does a 4 fit into the 5? 1 time. So that will be my whole number, 1. Now I want to find the remainder to figure out the fraction. So 1 times 4 equals 4. I subtract. 5 minus 4 equals 1. So the remainder is 1, and that's going to go over. So the 1, the remainder is the numerator, and the denominator is the divisor. So that's 1 and 1/4. So each brother's share is 1 and 1/4. And that matches my diagram as well, right? Okay, let's look at number 3. This is our last one. We have 12 friends share 3 melons equally. So what fraction of a melon does each friend get? So now you don't have to draw the model or a picture. I know that 3 divided by 12 can be rewritten by putting the first digit, the dividend, in the numerator, and dividing it means that I put the 12, the divisor, in the denominator. So that's 3/12. And I know that I can simplify this because 3 is a common, I can divide both the numerator and denominator by 3. 12 is a multiple of 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. So each friend's share is 1/4 of a melon. And that's how we do it. All right.